Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the William Bonney Weekly Podcast. Today, I thought I would have another look at Lucy Letby. There's been some things come out since we did the last video. A couple of things have happened, and also the reaction to the last video I did, sort of profiling Lucy Letby, has been amazing. It's had so many more views than my normal videos have. So thank you everyone who's been interested and obviously been binging on Lucy Letby lately. It's pumped hundreds of new people towards the channel, and I've been enjoying sort of talking and meeting all of you. So today I thought I would do another quick video, just having a quick look at some of the things that have happened since Lucy Letby got sentenced to a whole life order on Monday. She's been sentenced to a whole life order for the murder of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 others. She does have the right to appeal her life term, but her lawyers have said so far that they've not indicated that they're going to. But despite this, a campaign has emerged, calling itself the Science on Trial campaign, and it's putting forward some arguments questioning the expert witnesses around the forensic evidence that has been given, and saying that they don't believe that Lucy Letby got a fair trial. Its founder, Sarita Adams, a scientific consultant for the biotech startup company in California, says that she has a PhD in biochemistry from Cambridge, but according to her LinkedIn profile, she appears not to have worked as a scientist since then. So maybe this is just someone sort of self-publicizing, kind of riding off the back of this trial. Through fundraising, researching and legal assistance, we aim to ensure that Lucy Letby can have a fair trial where scientific evidence is reliable. Now, what they're basically saying is that they don't feel that Lucy Letby got a fair trial. A lot of people are saying that the evidence against her is just circumstantial. A lot of the evidence is based on the rotas that she was the only one in at the time when all these unexpected deaths were happening. And they feel for that reason that the only real science that was used was in the case of a couple of babies where they found higher than normal insulin levels in the baby's bloodstream. Now, Lucy Letby's defense aren't arguing that these insulin levels were wrong. They're just saying that she didn't administer the insulin, essentially. So it is clutching at straws. Obviously, there's been a 10-month trial, and they went through the evidence, they went through everything, and at the end of it, they found that she was guilty. So again, we're just kind of standing on the outside looking in. It is a very odd trial. It is, lots of people have said in the comments that what have her looks got to do with anything? I'm not sitting here saying she's a little stunner. I'm just saying that she doesn't look like a serial killer. She has this kind of plain Jane look about her. Nothing remarkable. Normally when you see these people, and there's probably people listening to this who have watched far more true crime documentaries than I have, but normally when you go back to their houses, or when you go into their lives, or when you dig a little, you see some serial killer traits. But with Lucy Letby, you don't. There's very little evidence to suggest that she is a nutcase. Her parents and her best friend are standing by her. I read an article yesterday saying that one of her best friends feels like that she's, until Lucy actually says to her that she did this, she's going to stand by her because she doesn't believe that Lucy did it. Her parents are standing by her. And lots of people have got lots to say about her parents as well, saying that her parents are mollycoddling her, and that she that they know they know far more about Lucy than they're letting on. Now, I wanted to talk quickly about a nurse in Holland, another Lucy de Burke, who served 6 years of a life sentence for murders of 7 patients. She was then later exonerated after a retrial. After the retrial heard about the errors of experts. So when we're going back and we're sort of looking through history, it's always worth looking at the mistakes we made. Because when you can you look at someone like Lucy Letby and you go, okay, so there's only a small amount of circumstantial evidence. There's the post-it notes that she wrote showing sort of an insight into her psyche, which was very disturbed. And also there's the medical notes that she stockpiled at home. Now, all of these things in themselves seem fairly damning, but can they be explained away? And are they just coincidences? So looking back at this Dutch nurse again, Lucy de Burgh, a Dutch nurse who served more than 6 years of a life sentence for murdering 7 patients in her care, was exonerated today. Now, this was an article that was written in 2010. So when we're talking about today, it's a while ago. And the country's Attorney General personally apologised for her ordeal. Lucy de Burgh, now 49, was released from prison in 2008, pending a retrial after an extraordinary review of her conviction, which had been upheld by the country's Supreme Court. Prosecutors recognised errors in the case and had asked for an acquittal at the end of her last retrial. De Burgh told reporters she was delighted after the verdict was read at the appeal court. "I'll have to let it sink in a while," she said. The Attorney General said that he wanted to restore de Burgh's reputation. "I've offered my apologies for what happened to her," adding that the ministry was negotiating a financial settlement with her lawyers. Brouwer had said prosecutors had acted in good faith in a complicated case, but relied on testimony by experts who proved to be mistaken. De Burgh was arrested in 2001 after a 6-month-old baby died while she was on duty at a hospital in The Hague, an incident initially thought to have been poisoning. After de Burgh's arrest, investigators uncovered what they saw was a trend of deaths and near deaths in suspicious circumstances while she was alone with patients. Prosecutors charged her with 13 killings and 5 attempted murders in Dutch hospitals between 1997 and 2001. She was convicted of 3 of the murders in 2003, centering on the baby's death, and sentenced to life. Prosecutors at the time said de Burgh may have seen herself as an angel of mercy, delivering death to patients who were suffering. So, wow, this sounds so much like Lucy Letby. Her sentence was unusually heavy by Dutch standards, in part because de Burgh continued to deny any wrongdoing and showed no remorse. So she can end up looking a bit like a cold serial killer. During her initial trial, judges accepted as evidence entries into de Burgh's diaries in which she wrote about strange compulsion and a secret that she would take with her to the grave. On November 27, 1999, the day an elderly woman died in her care, she wrote she had just given in to her compulsion. Today's ruling found that there were no signs of the elderly woman's death was unnatural, and there were many innocent explanations for the diary entries. The court formally dismissed all the charges. With respect to the other deaths and life-threatening incidents, the court believes that investigations have uncovered no facts or circumstances that could have given grounds for suspecting an unnatural cause, the ruling said. So this is, again, another chunk of that pie. So this has happened before. Where these caregivers get blamed through circumstantial evidence, and it turned out to be completely untrue. Even with, I know it's not exactly the same, but even with diary entries saying that, she did something, she acted on compulsion today. That could have been talking about eating a cake. She's on a diet and she ate a cake, a whole birthday cake to herself. It happens. And, people's lives are complicated and difficult. And I remember reading an article by an FBI agent ages ago, and it said that if they wanted to arrest somebody and build a case against them for anything, they could. Generally everybody's committed some sort of crime in their life, and you could be sent to jail. Or they could build a case against you that made you look like you did it because, you were nearby when that person died suspiciously. Every time I click my fingers, someone in the world dies. Now, does that mean that every time I'm clicking my fingers, I'm causing that death? Or is it just a coincidence? They could say, oh, Bonnie, you know, there was a pattern emerging. Every time you clicked your fingers, somebody died. And when you stopped clicking your fingers, oh, well, people stopped dying. Well, again, that's just a coincidence. You know, it's just one of those things. I know I'm not on trial, and we're not suggesting that possibly that Lucy was completely innocent, but I'm just saying it's happened before in almost exactly the same circumstances. Now, there is a lot of talk about cluster of baby deaths as well, and how clusters can be statistical anomalies which happen naturally, but also can look like something was causing them, but also they can happen just naturally in time as well. So say, for example, you know, a cluster of celebrities die, 5 or 6 celebrities die in 1 month. It seems like a lot. You know, there was a couple of years ago when we were talking about all of the greats are dying at the same age. And it's just a statistical anomaly. So just reading this little bit here, Lucy Letby is accused of murder in relation to 7 deaths, which happened between 2015 and 2016. But there were 11 for which she has not been implicated, presumably because she could not have been responsible for them. In fact, the defence in its opening said that she could not have been responsible for some of the 7 deaths that she has been connected with. If we assume that the non-malicious deaths are distributed according to the Poisson distribution, deaths are independent of each other and occur at a rate of 2.7 per year, the average of 2013, 2014 and 2017, then the odds of there being 11 deaths, the ones that Lucy has not been accused of, over the 2-year period, purely chances is 1 in 83. So in other words, the prosecution is asking the jury to believe that there is both a serial killer at work as well as some other factor, e.g. faulty equipment, understaffed unit, incompetence among medical staff. So there's a higher number of deaths, whether you include the ones that she did do, as well as the ones she didn't do. So there's a higher number of deaths anyway. So it's not just a high number of deaths because Lucy Letby was killing them, but there are a number of higher explained deaths as well. And these 2 factors both started and stopped at the same time. So it's quite a coincidence. So, by the way, it's for those who might think that the death rate fell in 2017, well, it was actually around mid-2016 the death rate of babies stopped, because Lucy Letby was caught. You have to remember that the neonatal unit was downgraded in June 2016, so it was no longer taking care of more higher at-risk babies. So at the same time that they moved Lucy off the ward, they also downgraded it, so they stopped receiving sick babies. So coincidentally, it looks like at the same time as she was caught, the babies stopped dying. But also, like I said, there was a higher number of explained baby deaths at the same time as she was supposedly killing them. So there is some statistical evidence to back up the fact that maybe she is innocent. The way we could explain the paperwork that's at home. So maybe she is a little bit crazy. Maybe she is a little bit trying to work out. Maybe she's like a Columbo style nurse, and she's taken all the paperwork and she's trying to find something in the paperwork that explains why these babies died. There's a lot of diary entries. I saw a policeman talking about how they took lots of notes away from her house. She's a prolific writer of her feelings. And again, being an only child, she may well be, that's the only way she really communicates and clears her head, is by writing notes, writing in a diary, writing letters to herself, that sort of thing. This policeman said that after the first time she was arrested, they found more notes the second time she was arrested. So she did more diary entries. She did more writing on Post-its and more clearing her head through writing these things out. Now, again, obviously we've only seen the Post-it notes because they were the most damning. But have we not seen everything else she wrote? Where did everything else go? Maybe the other notes weren't as guilty. Now, again, people are going to jump on me because they're going to say, look, you're defending this awful person. And I'm just looking at it, devil's advocate. I'm just looking at it from the sidelines, looking in, just seeing the other angles that, you know, sometimes your own bias leans you towards a decision. And awful, yes, yeah, she's an awful person. These are awful crimes. If she did do them, she's a despicable person. But if she didn't do them, she has faced one of the worst miscalculations of justice this country has seen. Now, I'll give you a little bit of an insight as to how and why sometimes these things can happen. I looked at the DeBeck case just a moment ago, almost mirroring it. It's almost mirrored exactly 10 years ago. And in one of my cases once, so I used to rob drug dealers. I used to kick their doors in, rob drug dealers, because I knew that they would never be able to go to the police. So it's wrong. It's not something I'm proud of, but it was a crime that I used to do. Now, one of the times I was facing a charge that I didn't do. So this was something that someone's house got broken into, someone got beaten up, and they thought it was me because it fit the kind of standard of crimes that I used to commit. Now, I hadn't actually done it, but a witness had described someone who looked very much like me. But bearing in mind that description was a average build man with dark hair and athletic look. And, that was as much of the description as it went. And that looked like me at the time. But it also looks like 99% of, 20-year-old males. They found a footprint at the scene. They took all my trainers and they studied them, and the footprint came back to not match mine at all. So they disregarded that evidence and they went with the statement from the witness who said that this person looked like me. So they were trying to build a case against me. They weren't always trying to use all of the evidence to point towards the right person. And if some of that evidence didn't match, they just didn't use it. So they would possibly, with these notes and things that they found at her house, they're going to push forward the most damning stuff. And anything that actually shows that either she didn't do it or that she probably isn't the right person, they're just going to push to the side because they're building a case against the person that's in front of them. They're not sometimes using all the evidence to find the right person. Okay, so that's just a little insight. I don't think that they've got any right for defense. I think that she will spend the rest of her life in prison. I think that we will never find out truly why she did it. But there are enough questions around this case for there to be speculation and conspiracy for a long, long time that this could possibly be a miscarriage of justice. And like with everything online, it will build and it will grow. But I just wanted to do another video today, just quickly looking at some of the other side. So could she possibly be innocent? We will find out. Only time will tell. I'm not arrogant enough to believe that I am right in everything I do and say. We could easily see in another 5 or 6 years' time that Lucy Letby's gone through an appeal case and she's out. But who knows? Who really knows? The world is a strange and complicated place. Okay. Thank you very much for listening again. Thank you very much for taking the time to comment, and thank you and welcome to all of the new subscribers who have come and joined us. The waters are lovely. We do these videos every couple of days. The weekly podcast is definitely weekly and it's on every week. Thank you so much for listening. I'll do another video shortly.